Good Saturday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Auburn pregame show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. I'm your host, Simone alongside Nubyjas Wilborn this morning, and it is a new day in Auburn as the Tigers are taking on Mississippi State with a new interim head coach this week, Nubyjas, as Bryan Harsin was fired. It's something we talked about on this show. I feel like every single week leading up to this week, we can finally say Auburn has moved on from Bryan Harsin. Cadillac Williams is now the interim head coach. Nubyjas, what has the vibe been like around this team after the news broke on Monday?
Well, I mean, it's been a little bit of mix because, regardless of how people may have felt about Harsin. I mean, I know, listen, fans were out on him. I get it.
Sure.
And a sign of that was definitely the Landon King situation when people sided with the player on the player wanting to not play but still keep the red shirt. I was like, oh, they're really out on this man. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. They're done. They're not siding with him. They're out on him. It is a wrap. And sure enough, as the week went on, they lost that game, looked pretty bad. But there's still people sad because a lot of people lost their jobs, not just Harsin,
Yes.
which is the other thing too, Simone, I'm sure as you know probably better than most. Hey, you fired a head football coach. There's a whole lot of other people who may not know who don't have jobs.
Yes.
And they made some changes on their coaching staff. So a little bit of sadness about there, but also, hey, we still got football games to play. And Cadillac is going to do his best to encourage the team and encourage the troops and see where they can go from there.
Yep. As a coach's wife, having been in that situation, it's not a fun situation. It does impact a lot of people and a lot of families. So obviously, with all respect to the Harsin family and to those involved, this is a difficult situation for them. I think Auburn fans, like you said, Nubyjas, are looking forward to a new day, so to speak. I don't know again, not trying to throw dirt on Harsin's name, but it's been struggle a little bit over the last couple of years. Now Auburn is at Mississippi State today. It's about a 12.5-point line. Auburn really looking to get back into the win column after struggling for a couple weeks now. When you look at the state of this program, Nubyjas, what type of opportunity do the Tigers have today?
Well, I mean, they have a big opportunity, one, to kind of get over this 4-game losing streak, lost 5 of the last 6. I mean, they've been struggling to stop the run, struggling to consistently finish drives. I mean, there's a lot of things that they can improve on against the Mississippi State team. And by the way, if you want to talk about Harsin's tenure, one could argue his tenure really started to hit the fan, if you will, with the Mississippi State game last year. Remember, Auburn was up. Infamous 28-3 lead.
Yes.
And blew that lead, lost that game to Mississippi State, never won another conference game that year, hadn't beaten a ranked opponent since Ole Miss last year. A lot of Auburn's season kind of fell down. So maybe now the rebirth for Auburn could be with a win against Mississippi State.
Yeah, and Mississippi State feels similarly. This is a team that's 2-3 in SEC play, kind of the bottom feeders of the SEC West, if we're being honest. So definitely the Bulldogs looking for an opportunity against a struggling Auburn team. So you got to believe that really on both sides, Nubyjas, Mike Leach's boys looking to get it done at home, the cowbells, the whole 9 yards. This is a big opportunity for Mississippi State.
Well, absolutely. I mean, listen, this is one of those games where you're sizing each other up. You need a win, they need a win, everybody needs a win here. And you look at the other team like the old easy mark, right? Yeah. And that's just what it is. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's where both these teams are. These teams are at this current stage looking at each other like, oh, well, we could beat those guys.
Yeah. As we talk about the coaching situation, I know Laura has a graphic for us. One of the biggest issues has been under the Bryan Harsin kind of regime was consistency. Consistency not only on the field, kind of in the locker room. I felt like there were moments on the sidelines where we saw players kind of unhappy. This is obviously his record over 21 games, a losing record. But what do you expect to look differently on the field when it comes to the actual ball, Nubyjas? Could we see some different wrinkles? I think we know Cadillac likes to run the ball.
Well, yeah, he likes to run the ball, but I mean, honestly, I don't really know how much different it can look on the field. I mean, you only got 4 games left. I mean, you've been doing all the things you've been doing since spring football. I would imagine, I'm sure Cadillac may have a wrinkle or two. I'm sure Will Friend, who will be offensive coordinator, can throw in a wrinkle or two. And by the way, shout out to Kendall Simmons for getting for moving up from analyst to offensive line coach, former Steeler, former Tiger. So Auburn has basically 4 former players on their coaching staff right now, including the head coach. By the way, he's the first Auburn former player to be head coach since Nick Jordan. So, shout out to all that. But all that being said, I don't really know how much different they can look on the field. I mean, because you're not going to just install a whole new offensive and defensive playbook at this point. So maybe a few wrinkles. Maybe they'll try to spread it out a little bit to maybe get some more receivers on the field. Maybe spread it out so you don't have 8, 9 guys in a box. Because one of the things about Auburn's running game is Tank Bigsby is consistently getting contact at like less than a yard. You know what I'm saying? Whereas, most guys can go 2, 3 yards before contact.
Sure.
Tank Bigsby's getting hit as soon as he gets the ball.
No doubt.
And, that's a tough thing. So maybe they can kind of switch that up a little bit. But I don't know how much different they're actually going to look when it comes to the football game.
A lot of good points, Nubyjas. Let's talk specifically about the quarterback situation. You've seen a lot of Auburn football every week. I know you probably watch the film after the fact too. How have you seen?
Yeah, I got to watch it sober. So
you got what?
I have to watch it sober, unlike the fans. So.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You probably got a cowboy clicker at home. I mean, you're like going through plays.
Yeah, but then you got to it's one thing to watch it at the game sober. You got to watch it after with the whole.
Nope. Absolutely. I mean, Cadillac probably should put you on the staff, to be honest. But when you talk about Robbie Ashford, how have you seen this guy progress? Despite the losing streak, how have you seen Robbie Ashford progress? And what is the latest on TJ Finley that you've heard this week?
Well, I mean, Robbie Ashford is developing. I really was impressed with how he handled himself at Ole Miss. He got benched in that game for a series, came back from it, bounced back, and took the L and bounced back. So shout out to him for that, and has really progressed. He had his best performance against Arkansas. He would have had 100 yards on the ground, but of course, NCAA does a silly thing where if the guy gets sacked and take away those yards, he end up with 87 yards and nearly 300 yards passing. Mm-hmm. Very accurate game, completed nearly 77% of his passes, whereas he had been around 55% before. So the development's there. I mean, the legs are there, the arm is there. Yeah. He's now putting the accuracy together. As far as TJ Finley, from what I've been told, he's taking a mental health break and having, I think the shoulder hasn't quite come back the way he wanted to. I think that's been a source of frustration this season itself, and he's away from the team right now. And as far as I know, I guess we'll see how that goes. I mean, that's just the best way I can put it. We'll see how that goes, and it's a sad situation, but
Yeah, for sure. Definitely is. If you're just tuning in, it's the Auburn Pregame Show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. Nubyjas Wilborn joined us live from very nice accommodation somewhere in Starkville. Yeah. When you think about this game last year, Nubyjas, you alluded to it earlier. It was a comeback for the ages, really, for Mississippi State. A record-breaking game for Will Rogers, 6 touchdowns. How do you contain this guy who, in moments, can be lights out, and in moments can be, not great?
Tackle. Simply start there, because he's going to do those little intermediate passes. Basically, it's really like long handoffs, to be honest, a lot of his passing game. And so Auburn's linebackers and defensive linemen need to tackle those little receivers. Yeah. If they don't tackle those receivers ever get to the second, third level, it's going to be a long night in Starkville with those darn cowbells. I got to get my earplugs ready.
Always is. It is always a long night for fans who have been in Starkville with the cowbells. It's a good time. When you look at the road ahead for Auburn, Nubyjas, it's kind of do or die now in terms of a bowl game. And I think that's not really, I'm not going to say
bowl game.
What was that?
Bowl game.
What? I mean, you can win 6 games and be in a bowl.
Bowl game? You're just trying to win a game.
Listen, so I understand that, and I was getting to that. I mean, listen, it's not like that's the priority thought process.
No, I'm just messing with you.
There'd have to be some incredible things happen in the final stretch, but crazier things have happened in college football. I'm trying to remain optimistic on this show. Nubyjas is Debbie Downer over here from Starkville, but listen, I'm remaining optimistic. It is a do or die situation in terms of any sort of postseason, but you have to at least hope that there could be some momentum, some groundwork for momentum to kind of start being built right now with this road game in Starkville.
Do you have to hope? No, I'm just joking. Well, I guess
as an Auburn fan, you hope.
Sure, you can. You can do that to yourself if you want.
For Auburn fans,
if you want to do that to yourself, you're welcome to do that to yourself. I mean, listen, they're going to play hard, okay? And to their credit, they didn't quit under Brian Harsin. The Arkansas performance notwithstanding, I will honestly say from everything I've been told, those guys show up every day for practice. They work hard. Again, this is the infamous, well, we had a great week of practice, like they always have a great week of practice, right? That's what they said. But they said that this week's week of practice was exceptionally spirited, one of the most spirited practices that This particular observer who I talked to has been around the program a long time. Hey, we had one of the best weeks of practice we've had in the last 2 years. Okay. So maybe that translates to a win against Mississippi State.
A win against Western Kentucky. I'm going to visit you in about 3 weeks when Auburn goes on a 3-game winning streak. I'm going to bring back these comments. I hope they're recording this show.
Well, hey, look, I didn't say it was impossible. I'm just saying it's highly unlikely at this point. Or what I will say is I have not seen demonstrated something that would give me the confidence to believe that Auburn is capable of doing that this season.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a prove it to me man, Nubyjas, and I respect you for that.
Hey, look, they can come out today at 6:30 or 7:30 Eastern with Central Time, whatever time of this game is, and come out there and beat the brakes.
Why is not going to be at the game on time, guys? He's going to get
I'll be here early because it's going to be a long day here at Stark Vegas, baby. So we're going to make it happen. But seriously, I mean, listen, they could get inspired. If you look at Auburn's roster, okay, 1 through, I'd say 30, they're as good as any team in the country. It's just when you get into that depth is when it's a struggle. Now, maybe they can get some guys, develop a little better. Maybe some guys who haven't shown up maybe show up now. Maybe some guys feel a little bit more inspired under Caddy than maybe they did under Harsin. Who knows? I'm not saying it's totally impossible. I'm just saying I wouldn't put my money on it.
Okay. And listen, I respect that, Nubyjas. I do. That's the road ahead for Auburn. Let's look at some other games around the SEC today. A big one at 2:30 in Tennessee, Georgia, obviously in the East, but one that has a lot of implications on the national rankings and on the Southeastern Conference.
I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, look, these are the games that when you're a player, you're a coach, you're a fan, why you want to be a part of the SEC.
Yeah.
And also a testament to Josh Heupel at Tennessee, what they've been able to do.
Yep.
Maybe that's something Auburn's trying to do, get back rolling, get back together, get back to being a team that is a viable national champion contender. And Tennessee hadn't been good in a long time. And to see where they are now, but also, hey, Whispers, and he's really good.
Yeah.
And show me a team in the last 25, 30 years that's been a contender for a national championship that didn't have an excellent quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt about that. The other two ranked teams in the Southeastern Conference, Alabama and LSU, a top 10 matchup in Baton Rouge. A night game in Baton Rouge. Going to be an interesting one for the Tide, coming off the bye week, I think, trying to get it done in a rivalry game on the road.
Hey, remember, Auburn had a 17-point lead against LSU.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's also one of the odd enough conundrums about Auburn. You had a 17-point lead against LSU. Last year, you had Mississippi State down. But look at what LSU has done each week since that loss against Florida State. Have gotten better and better and better.
Yep.
In that Auburn game, they were able to create turnovers, which led to their win. Kept Auburn off the board after Auburn got to a hot start.
Yep.
I don't know how this is going to go. Shout out to Brian Kelly. And it seemed like they figured out something at quarterback, too. And Alabama, obviously, they're Bama, okay? But they're not looking real Bama-like right now.
You're right.
I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that they don't look up to the standard of a Nick Saban team, particularly with the lack of discipline.
Yes.
A very undisciplined team, which is simply something you traditionally don't see with Saban. So I don't know how that game is going to go.
Yep. We will see what happens in Death Valley this evening. That game will kind of run at the same time as Auburn, Mississippi State kickoff set for 6:30 on ESPN2 between the Tigers and the Bulldogs. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Auburn pregame show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. For Nubyjas, Wilborn, Laura Goldman, I'm Simone Eli. We will see y'all here on the postgame show. Have a good college football Saturday.